This is Shel from PaperOcotilloStudio. Today I'm bringing you a little plaque that I made designing for Canvas Corp brands. That's Canvas Corp, Tattered Angels, and 7 Gypsies all together under one big umbrella. And they are collaborating this month with Words and Paintery Blog, which has a color challenge and a quote to inspire you every month. And so I'm making a project that goes along with their challenge, designing for Canvas Corp. I'm starting out with a wooden panel, and then I have some paper that are from 7 Gypsies. This is the Gypsies Moments variety pack. I think it's an 8x8 paper pack. It has a bunch of pieces. And I've pulled out a couple different pieces from that. I'm considering using a quote off of this piece, and I keep thinking about it, and then I know that I want to use those books. So I cut those out. And then I'm going to use some white gesso to just seal up this board because it's just raw wood and it would suck in anything that I tried to put on it. Just slurp it up like a sponge, you know. So then I don't have very many products yet because my order hasn't come from this company, and so I went out and I looked for some things that I could use in my local stores, and I couldn't find any products, any of the sprays or anything, paints that were blue. And one of the colors on the color board is blue. So I'm just using some acrylic paint, and I'm just smushing it on there and rubbing it around to add the blue element. Then I have some of their Plain Jane baseboard ink sprays. These don't have any mica in them, they're just flat. And I've got, this one's called Cardboard, and then I think this one's Clay, which is kind of a dark red. I just put those two on, and then I'm just using a baby wipe to kind of create a little bit of pattern there. Then I also have another one called Fire, and this is a pretty intense red color. And I'm spraying that across the top. And I'm masking off the areas, trying to anyways, with some scraps of deli paper that I had just sitting next to my desk. This one is very wet and it doesn't really mask very well. So when I pull off the mask, I've got a mess. So I'm just using my baby wipe to clean it up. I didn't take this out because I figured you'd want to see that people make mistakes and things happen and you can always fix them. So I just continue spraying. This is the ivory baseboard, plain Jane baseboard. I heat it and I just am like trying to make some color variation there. Then I decide that I need to lighten it up a little bit. So I get out some titanium buff acrylic paint and I use my 2-inch brayer to just roll over it, and then I add back in a little bit of blue. Just trying to get a kind of a grungy effect background. As most of you know who follow my channel, this really isn't my style. So I'm experimenting, I'm messing around, I'm just trying to come up with something interesting. I still want to use these books, so I keep putting them on there and taking them off and putting them off. But I have some, I think you would call it tissue tape from 7 Gypsies, and I'm going to use some of that. I'm thinking about a theme of like reading and text, and how reading books really expands your mind, helps you learn things, and helps you use your imagination. There's just a lot of good things about reading, and so that's kind of my theme, because what you do today can change the way you live your life, which is what the quote was saying. So that was kind of my idea when I saw these books in the paper pack. And they're really cool books. They look like old, ancient ones that somebody found in a, I don't know, a estate sale or something. So after I put that tissue tape on, I decide I need to make it a little bit more grungy. So I pour some of that cardboard colored baseboard paint in my palette and just go over the tape with a brush. And it does really like darken it up. Then I decide I need more. So I get out a different one of the tapes that has numbers on it. The first one has like kind of like a dictionary text, and then this one has just lines of numbers, like maybe it was from a ledger or something. And the 3 tapes came together in a pack, and they're the 7 Gypsies brand. So I'm liking it. I'm thinking, what do I need? That's basically my whole process. This process was experimentation for me. And I decided to use this crackle stencil. Couldn't help from buying that when I was out looking for the other stuff. And I didn't buy all just Canvas Corp brands things. I got a couple other things. Don't tell. So I spray the cardboard paint over the stencil, and that's pretty cool. Then I just clean off the stencil by putting it on some other paper that I had laying next to the desk. And then I get out the 3rd tape, and I really like the torn edge better, so I tore it in half and then put it so that the torn edges were out and the straight edge was to the inside. Then I lightened it up a little bit more with some more titanium buff, because it just keeps getting really dark because I keep spraying that dark brown on there. Then I decide it needs edges. So I use some archival ink in, I believe that's called potting soil. It's a brown color, just to finish off the edges. And I use archival because I don't know what else wet things I'm going to put on here, and I don't want the ink to run. Then I decide I need to edge those torn edges. So I get out a pit pan, and I'm getting ready to do it, and then I realize I probably need to seal all that stuff in and make a non-porous surface, because the pit pins, which have India ink, work better over a non-porous surface. But when I put the sealer on, which is Decor's decoupage medium, it kind of smears that fire baseboard paint. So I'm unclear as to whether I need to heat seal the baseboard paints or not. I'm still experimenting because it did smear, and so I used my baby wipe to just kind of pat just to get rid of the smears. And then of course I'm drying. There's a lot of drying in this, and I cut out most of it so that you wouldn't have to watch my heat tool. How boring is that? So then I go back in with this pit pen, and I'm just going around kind of accenting the torn edges of the tape because I think it looks cool and it has a real organic look to it. So I'm kind of drawing it on and then rubbing with my finger, drawing on, rubbing with my finger, because you have a few seconds to blend this particular type of ink. But then once it's dry, it's permanent. And then I decide what I really need is black edges, not brown, because there's just too much brown going on, and there's black writing on all the tape. So I go back in and do it with my black archival ink instead. Then I cut these books apart because I decide I want them to be like a 3D element. So I'm gonna do that. So I'm still trying to decide, do I want them stacked? Do I want them sideways? Do I want them, I don't know. How do I want them? I know I want them on there, but I'm not sure exactly how. So that's what I'm doing. I'm messing around with them. I'm sure you guys all do this. Then I decide that they need to be 3-dimensional. They need to be curved as if they really actually were the spines of books. And I know that I really can't do that unless I thicken up the paper. So I decoupage them onto a piece of craft cardstock. And that also serves to kind of intensify the colors because they were a little bit faded looking. And they look better now. Then I cut them apart. I fussy cut all of them. And I think I'm going to cut this part out here in a second. And by the magic of television, they're cut. Then I decide I'm going to use some of these rub-ons. This is the Gypsy Moments, no, not Gypsy Moments, 7 Gypsy Steampunk Numbers rub-ons. I'm not very good at rub-ons. I mess them up a lot because I really haven't done it that much, but I liked these. I thought they were really cool. So I'm just putting them on randomly. I figure in a library there's lots of numbers, so I'm just using whatever one seems interesting and just kind of rubbing them on there. and also adds a little bit of extra black to kind of bring in the black from the edges and the black from the tape that has the different printing on it. I got a little bit of extra on there, just stuck for some reason, so I scratched them off with the popsicle stick that comes with it. And then I'm just going to take a sponge and sponge around the edges of all my books before I attach them, because they're going to have that edge from the craft cardstock. It'll show. I was worried it would show, so I used my black archival ink and just a regular sponge to sponge around them. Now I'm going to attach them, and what I'm doing here is I'm taking different round things on my desk and rolling the paper around it so that it gives the paper a rounded dimension like it would have if it was the end of a book. You know, they're not flat, they're rounded. And that's what I wanted to do. And then I'm just using carpet tape, which is like a foam dimensional tape. I have a gigantic roll of this. I don't think I'll ever use it up. And I'm putting it in the center of each book and then using that to attach it. It's very sticky. And I'm cutting it to different widths because some of the books are fatter than other ones. This worked out really well. They really do look dimensional. It's a little bit hard to, well, you can kind of see it in the video, but in real life they look extremely dimensional. And you can touch them and feel that they're sticking out from the little plaque. Then I take I'm still trying to decide what I want to use from this other piece of paper. Still can't decide if I'm going to use something from it or not. I end up not, actually. I take another one of my Pit pens. Remember, that's the Permanent India ink. This is a dark charcoal gray brown color. And just add some shadows around the books so that they appear to blend into the panel a little bit more. I think that turned out pretty good. I'm pretty excited about it. Then I take this gold, very fine tip Sharpie poster paint pen, and I'm just going and adding little gold highlights as if there was some gold leafing on the ends of the books because they're old books. And then I go over to my printer and I print out this little saying on printer paper, so it's very thin. And then I use some of my baseboard sprays on it to kind of give it a grungy colored look. I mean, if you just left it white, it would look very silly because there's nothing white on this entire little piece at all. There's nothing. So I'm going to decoupage that on. It says read a good book. You should. Read a good book. It'll expand your imagination, make you think about stuff. So I'm using my Deco Arts satin decoupage medium to put that on. And then while I'm at it, I go over the rub-ons just to make sure that they're stuck and sealed in. Then I need a few more 3D embellishments, and so I start getting out some charms. This first set has a bird cage and a couple birds, and I thought that that was going to be what I was going to use. Was this the quote says set your imagination free, so I thought bird cage, birds, let your imagination soar free. But then I decide they're too small, they don't stand out, and so I get out the large heart charms from 7 Gypsies, and then these butterflies, which are from a different company. I don't even know what company they're from. They're in my stash. And I decide I'm going to use those because butterflies also symbolize flying free and metamorphosis and imagination and all that. So I don't have any blue spray, so I'm going to paint my one butterfly with some acrylic paint. Still struggling with which color. Can't decide. All my colors seem to come out too green. So that's my blue butterfly, and I give him a little spritz of water just to blend that acrylic paint. And then I have the red one and then a kind of tannish brown one. Put a little bit more of that fire colored baseboard paint, plain Jane baseboard, which I believe it just means, all that means is it's their matte spray as opposed to the glimmer mists, which have lots of mica in them. The plain Jane baseboard is just flat, it has no mica. So now I decide maybe I do want a little bit of shimmer, and I have this. Well, first I'm trying to make this glaze work, but it's all dried up, and then I have this other spray. It's a glimmer mist. It's craft color, and it's basically brown with gold mica. So I just spritz a little bit of that on and splatter a little bit of it just to give a little bit of shine and shimmer because everything was so flat. I put it on the butterfly's end also, the plaque. Then I'm just highlighting those words, adding a little bit of shadow around them with a pit pen, and then a little bit of highlight with my gold fine tip. I'm sorry that there's so much glare. I don't really know what to do about that. Sometimes it's there and sometimes it's not, but it's because the decoupage medium that I used is satin, so it has a little bit of a shine, just a slight shine. Need to start using really matte again, but I was trying to use it up. So now I'm looking at it. I'm thinking it's about done, but then I decide it needs a way to hang, and so I go drill it with a couple holes in the upper corners, and then I put a piece of black hemp twine on it to hang it. And then I decide I want to embellish that, so I get out some seam binding. That's what this is seam binding. It's like a very thin ribbon. And I'm spraying it with all those same baseboard paints. And then also the craft colored glimmer mist too. And then I'm blotting off the excess, drying it, and then I have my own custom colored ribbon that matches. And I tie that to the twine at the top. Also, somewhere in there, I found a wire butterfly in my stash and threw that on there. I didn't film that part. I'm not sure what happened. But anyway, that's my finished project. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks. Bye-bye.